Welcome everyone. This is our Wednesday Wisdom. You ready?
Yep.
This is our Wednesday Wisdom where we go over tips, tricks, and information on band instrument repair. A lot of information to give you today on installing springs. So we aptly named our hashtag Spring Break 2022. So make sure you put that hashtag in the comments below to be entered into the drawing for this week's prize. And of course, this week's winner is David Gretting. Congratulations, David. Send me an email to rich@musicmedic.com and we will get you your prize. We are also going to the NAPR conference in Baltimore, Maryland in a week, next weekend, April 8th and 9th. So go to napr.org to sign up for that conference and or just stop in. You can just sign up and go for a day.
Storm the place.
We've got Friday, Saturday, get your friends. Friday, Saturday, and Ryan's clinics are Sunday.
1 and 3.
1 and 3? Very good. I'm going to go to the late show.
Yep.
Today we are talking about installing springs. And they have to like, share, and subscribe.
Yep. It's optional to click the bell, but it's highly encouraged.
We're a couple minutes early today, so yeah, please click the bell and you'll be notified when all this good stuff happens. You'll get a little alert. Bing. Your phone will go off. It'll make that noise. It'll be embarrassing. You'll be in a meeting. That's okay. You can just watch your video. After they fire you for having your phone on during work. So then you can have all the time in the world to watch us. That's right. Like, share, subscribe, and make sure you put this hashtag in the comments below so you can be entered into the prize. And David, get up with me. So Ryan, let's talk about installing springs. What are the tools? We're going to go over several things today. We're going to go over how to remove a broken and whole spring, how to measure, how to select the size, how to do a bunch of stuff, how long it should be, how to peen, and a couple other steps. So let's talk about the tools that technicians or DIY guys may need, and there's only a couple specialty tools, right?
There's only a few. Obviously, you have to have the springs, a couple different types. Obviously, we have the blued needle springs, we have the gold-plated needle springs, and then the nickel-plated music springs. Music springs?
Yeah.
Needle springs. Sorry.
Yeah, blued needle.
It's only 10:45. It's already been a long day. I've been up for like an hour and a half. Give me a break. A couple other things you may or may not need, things like a file, a small needle file. Very important, you have to have some kind of steel-faced hammer, and this is a tack hammer. This is what we use here in the pro shop to flatten or peen the end of the needle spring before we insert it. A framing hammer works. I like one with a very tiny head on it. A digital caliper for measuring, a steel bench block, and this is a bench block that I only use for peening springs because it has a whole bunch of divots on it. It's not one I use for leveling pad cups and whatnot. I have a separate bench block I use for that, but this is the one that I use for peening my springs. Then we get into 2 pairs of pliers. My choice is the Duckbill Knipex. I'm going to be using both of these for removing whole springs. We have some variety of different cutters used to trim our springs to length.
Now, I don't want to sell anything, Ryan, but I do want
then stop.
I do want to point out the differences there. From right to left, you've got a Knipex diagonal cutter, which has hardened jaws, and that can cut a very thick musical spring wire. And then you have a Knipex, really, it's almost a mini bolt cutter.
This is. These are I use this to cut hinge rod. So
that'll cut hardened steel springs up to the largest size, and non-hardened drill rod up to whatever, almost. I think it'll cut a 3mm rod.
Almost, yeah.
And then you have for smaller springs, that is the Xuron spring shears, and Ryan will talk more about the function, but those are very handy for smaller springs and giving you a clean edge.
Absolutely,
which is important. Sorry to interrupt, but.
No. Back to our originally scheduled program, the Rich commercial. So buy them here today.
Did you do your specialties?
We didn't.
Oh,
I saved the best for last. There's a few other specialty springs. Aside from obviously having an instrument that you need springs replaced, you have to have some specialty tools, and these are really kind of the only tool that you need. This right here are Your spring inserting pliers, you notice we have a notch that will allow the spring to be pushed through when you're pushing it into the post. And then we have our broken spring removing pliers, and these are extremely handy. It's practically impossible to remove a spring that's broken off flush with the post without these pair of pliers. So there you go. Some other ones that you may or may not need, some kind of plier used to tension them. Give it initial tensioning. I know we're going to talk in a future video about the fine tuning and getting the feel of all the springs to feel good and springy.
Yeah. And
Spring Break 2022, put it in the comments, like, share, subscribe. I wake up in the morning actually screaming that. So my girlfriend hates it. Like, share, subscribe, like, share, subscribe.
Probably freaks the animals out
it
too.
Does,
yeah.
it does.
I would say for all the viewers too, I'm going to put links to all of those tools in the description once we are done with this too, so everybody can check those out on the website. Okay, so Ryan, that's the tool list. Let's talk about our procedure for how to remove a hole and how to remove a broken spring.
Sure, will do. All right, now on to the stuff. So here we are. We're on our super up close cam, Spring Break 2022. Like, share, subscribe, click the bell. Sorry. I get paid, folks, every time I say that.
That's
I get paid.
Yeah.
So
it's like a. I mean, I'd be saying it to him.
It's like $1.50, so that's like a taco at Taco Bell. But here we are. This is the spring. This is our whole spring that we're going to be removing. And rather than just grabbing the spring with a pair of pliers and with a hammer and trying to hammer it out that way, we're going to do it a little bit more gently and tactful. So I will say this spring has been inserted this way. Now, this is the way it has to come back out. We can't push it all the way through. The end of the spring has been flattened or peened, so it has a little flare at the end, and that's what actually is holding it in this post, unless it's a Norton spring, which if it is, stay tuned for another video about Norton springs. So I'm going to have to press it out that way. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to use the two-pliered method for removing a whole spring. Okay? So with one pair of pliers, I'm going to grab the actual spring. I'm going to grab it fairly close to the post. Okay, I would say I'm probably about 3 millimeters away from the post. With the other pair of pliers, and this is good if it's parallel action, it's even better if it's the Duckbill Knipex pliers, because again, I get paid a little bit every time somebody buys one.
Now don't sell them.
Oh, I'm sorry, you can't sell these. You can't buy these.
We're not selling.
So no selling. So as you can see, I'm going to put one side of the jaw on one side of the post and the other side on the other side of the pair of pliers holding onto the spring, and I'm going to squeeze, and that's going to pop that spring right out. TV magic. There it is. Bam. Popped it right out. And you can see when I hold that up close, if I can hold it up close and you guys can see, you see that flattened side, that peened side, that flare is what's holding it in to the post. So there's my spring. Okay. It's out.
So now, Ryan, that was how to remove a whole spring. What if it's broken off in the post?
Yeah, broken off. Sometimes it breaks off and there's just a little bit sticking out. Sometimes you can use your spring inserting pliers and actually press it out. Sometimes, like what we have down here, I don't know if you guys can see with our extreme close-up cam, that bottom one has a little spring in it. Okay, but you notice it's broken off flush with the post. There's no way to press it out unless you have one of these.
Yeah.
This is our broken spring removing pliers. You see that little nub right there? Okay, this is actually another needle spring.
Get out of here.
No way. It's crazy, right?
Get out of town, really.
So we have a needle spring in here, and I've just given it a little bit of shape. In fact, I used a gold-plated spring.
Very nice.
Because I'm fancy like that.
Very nice.
Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that little nub or that existing needle spring to actually press out that broken off string. So I have to be very, very careful. I have to line everything up correctly. And then I'm just going to, and it's just going to pop out like so. I know it was kind of hard to see with our super up close cam, but there it is. There's that little bit right there. That is what was broken off, and that's what was stuck in the post.
So Ryan, you really do need a specialty pair of pliers to do the broken spring.
Yes, absolutely.
Job.
Do not get in there with a filed down nail or try to, I don't know, it's just, it's a pain in the butt. And believe me, I've been there multiple times. Yeah, you really have to have these particular pair of pliers.
Yep, and I know MusicMedic sells a couple different price points of broken spring pliers. There's those, the parallel action, which work on all instruments, and then there's another called the broken spring plier, which is also extremely effective, a little more economical. Not trying to sell anything, just saying there are a couple options for those of you who need this specialty tool, because you really do need it.
Yes. But now, would that be a tip or a trick? Sounds like a tip.
It's a little bit of a tip.
It's a little bit of a tip. Okay.
Let's move on to, we're going to move on to the next step, which is how to select the next spring. So you've removed both of them. How do we select the replacement?
So I'm going to replace the whole spring that we removed. So there it is right there. Okay, and this is a blued needle spring. So I'm just going to use one of our blued needle springs. But you can see there are multiple sizes.
Whoa.
Multiple sizes. Okay. 0.35 millimeters all the way up to 1.6 millimeters. You get an extra 0.0 millimeter for free. So you have all these different sizes. We're not going to get into tensioning them for feel. You know, obviously lighter spring is going to give you a different feel than a heavier spring. There's a lot into it. So we're just going to measure very quickly the existing spring that we pulled out. So I'm going to use my digital caliper. I'm just measuring the diameter, and this is saying 1.13. So I'm going to pick a 1.1 millimeter spring. There it is. There's my 1.1 millimeter.
And I've noticed you've gone with the blued steel versus a nickel-plated or gold-plated spring.
It's the nice thing about the nickel and the gold, well, besides the look, is it's the same material. Okay?
Right.
So they're going to give you the same feel. It's not like gold's going to give you a lighter feel and nickel's going to give you a heavier feel. It's just the protective coating on it. This has a bluing coating on it. If I were to take a piece of sandpaper and file it off, it would look metallic, or you know, it would be metal underneath. But obviously the gold-plated are really nice looking, especially on silver horns, and the nickel has just a little bit of extra coating and protection on it. So there we are. There's my whole uncut spring. Hopefully the same size. Now I'm going to do a little test fit to see if we're close.
And now we're doing this for a couple of reasons, right? We're doing it to see if it fits in the hole well, and for length, right?
Exactly.
How long should this be?
Yep. So an easy thing to do is if you remove a whole spring and it was good to begin with, you can actually just measure it right up to it and then cut it to length. Okay. Let's see. Oh man, things are in the way. So I want everybody to see this here. So there's my cut spring.
I like that white background with the dark spring. That's good.
So you can see everything. So there's my cut spring, and there's my uncut spring. You can see how they come a little long. Now notice one side is pointed, one side is not. When you're dealing with needle springs, you do not cut the pointed side. Do not cut the pointed side.
No cutting pointed side.
Don't cut the pointed side. Where's our hashtag? Hashtag Spring Break 2022. Do not cut the pointed side.
That's right.
You don't have to put that in the comments. But so what I can do very easily is I can just match it up to the existing spring, and I can just cut it to the existing length. If it's broken off and we have our little nub, we'd actually have to put the key on, measure it up with where the spring matches with the cradle. That little point is going to go right in the cradle. You can mark it off with a Sharpie, or you can use your needle file or whatever to make a mark. You take it out and you cut it to length. But to save time, we're just going to go and measure it up with the existing spring. And I'm going to use the Xuron shears.
And what's cool about those is neither of us have safety glasses.
We don't.
On.
Well, we have regular glasses, but not safety glasses. They're not very safe.
Ryan can actually cut that, and it's not going to fly anywhere.
There you go. And it just actually holds on to both the cut piece and the other side.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Super nice. The other great thing about this is if I were to use a pair of pliers like this, which there's nothing wrong with using this, these are great pliers.
They are good.
It would kind of snip it off, and it would have kind of a tapered point to it. This shearing, the Xuron shearing pliers, has a nice clean edge. I used to, for a number of years, use this pair of pliers.
Yeah.
Which is like nothing wrong with that. But what I would then do to clean up that cut end is I would take it on a file and just kind of clean it up a little bit, a couple passes. Using the Xuron, it takes that step out of it. So I get through springing up a horn much, much quicker. And I guess that would be considered a tip. So, Spring Break 2022. Put it in the comments. Sunday. Oh, sorry, Wednesday wisdom. So there we are. We've got our spring at the appropriate length. If I were to put this in What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to flatten or peen, P-E-E-N, right, N, into actual smashing the intact spring. I'm going to draw real quickly the shape of that end should really sometimes you'll pull out old springs and they'll have kind of like this.
Okay, hold up, Ryan. David says our audio is not working right. David, which audio? Mine or Ryan's?
How the headphones go.
Hurry up, David. Tell us. There's a lot of noise on that mic.
We got a lot of hiss. We got a lot of hiss and popping.
Noise on the mic. Turn it down a little bit.
Turn it down. Turn it
Just a
down.
little
Check,
bit.
check, 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 check. 1, 2. Springs. Here
How's
we
that?
go. Hashtag Spring Break 2022. There it is. Okay, yeah. You can see it right there. There it is. So hopefully our audio is back. So we're talking about heating the inner flattening spring that goes into the post. I want to have this amount because right here is where it's going to be inserted into the post. And you see it's going to be very nice and stable. This is something like this, which only on one side is grabbing. This, a lot of times you put it in, it'll wiggle a little bit. And here it's going to be nice and tight in that post when we insert it. So, heating. I'm going to go over here to be a nice firm place to put my bench block. I'm going to use my hammer and I'm going to use that small pin. And what I'm doing is I'm going to bring it up to the real close camera. When I hold this over the bench block, I'm not pressing it directly down on it. Okay? I'm just hovering it slightly above it. That way when I actually go, I'm not going to crease. Sometimes it'll get on the end of that bench block. I'll hit it and I'll put like a little crease or a gown in the end. So what I'm going to do is just hold it directly above and I just have to put it on this solid bench block. With this solid bench top. I'm holding this a little bit. You can see it's not coming straight down, it's like glancing below. And it takes a little getting used to exactly how to get this shape. You know, a lot of times if I'm getting too much of this fishtail shape, I'll raise my elbow, okay, and that'll change where the hammer hits. So let's go to our super up close cam, and you can see when I rotate it there, I do have a little bit of a flattened edge. Now we're just going to go ahead and test fit it into our saxophone.
So Ryan, why don't you, after you do that, let's switch up your mic.
Go ahead, just,
you want that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do a double mic. Double mic. Oh my goodness.
It's okay. Yeah, this is working because we got a couple more steps, and if it's, David said it sounds like we got a little distortion going.
Double. Well, that's the way I sound.
Are
Thank
you
very
on
much.
there?
I think I am. I'm on
Okay.
there. I'm double mic'd. I think we're good to go.
Turn your original mic off there.
Let's see here.
We'll see. All right, David, since you are our technical
Check,
director today,
check. Microphone, check.
how's it sounding, guys? Everybody good?
We're good to go. Can you hear us?
We got lots of signal on our side.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? What about now? Okay. All right, here we go. So, where were we?
Oh my gosh. Oh, he says much better. Thank you, David.
Yes.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you.
We're gonna have to replace that mic.
We will.
We had just peened, and you were telling us. Can you show them with the close-up just the stroke that you're using?
Sure,
one more
absolutely.
time. Just because it's easy for me to see, but like it may be hard for the overhead.
So as I'm flattening my spring, here it is. Again, I'm just hovering it above because, again, I don't want to peen an edge into it. Use that glancing blow. And I do glance towards the peened side. So I'm holding the tapered side. Just like that.
So it's less of a vertical motion. It's more
Right,
of a
I'm not
side to
coming
side.
straight down like this. Okay, and then, again, this may work for you. Okay, this works for me. Try it out. Try it out. Let us know. Also, put it in the comments, Spring Break 2022.
That's right.
Or else you don't. So.
Okay. All right, so we've peened this into a U shape, and that takes a little bit of practice, guys.
It does.
So if you get the V, you know, get a few springs and keep trying.
Exactly. So what we're looking for, and I'll see if I can get extra close with our $17 super up close cam, is I just want a little bit of that peened side to stick out. So as I bring this in, I should start to feel, okay, it's starting to get a little bit tighter right in here. And I should have about, I'm going to say about 3 millimeters, 3-4 millimeters sticking out. Okay, when it starts to feel tight, you got 3 or 4 millimeters, that's when you can go ahead and press fit it in. Okay? Again, we can get on this rabbit hole of talking springs and how to peen and why, being careful and filling the holes if they're over peened and using springs that are too big. And it's just, we're just showing you a very basic way of replacing a spring.
Okay.
Very basic way. If you want to know more, we have clinics and we have classes and all kinds of stuff coming up. So we're going to go ahead and use our spring inserting pliers. If you notice, one side has a slot in it, and that is to allow the spring side to pass through. The other side is what you're going to actually use to press it in, just like that. I'm going to go ahead and press, use that little nub, and there we are.
And so that you are installed, and we talked about the feel for installation. Now, let's talk about how to tension it. And I think you're right, Ryan. Like, there's a lot of
theory on how much to tension it, which keys get higher tension. We're just giving you that initial bend.
So let's talk about, because this is a good tip, which direction do you bend?
Yeah, so very important to think about what key you're replacing. The key is either going to be held open or it's going to be held closed. We replaced it for our low C key. This is a key that's held open. Okay? You can just get in there, move it one way, attach it. If it keeps it closed, then obviously you did it the wrong way. But my theory or my thinking is, think about where the post is, where the spring is versus the tone hole. If you bend the spring towards the tone hole, so here's my C spring, here's my C tone hole. If you bend it towards the tone hole, it's going to keep it open. If I bend it away from the tone hole, it's going to keep it closed. Okay? When we're dealing with, E flat obviously is held closed. It's going to be sprung away from the tone, away from the tone hole. Yeah, sorry, I had to think about that. Yep. It's going to be held closed. If this is bent towards the tone hole, it's going to hold the key open.
That's right. And so this is the low C, so the spring would be bent towards the body.
Exactly. So when I hook that, that spring opening this way is actually going to keep that key open. And what I'm looking for, again, we've cut it to length. So hopefully when I put this key on, that tapered point of that needle spring is going to be right in that spring catch. Okay, and again, that is for the least amount of friction possible.
Cool.
So, number of ways you can do that. I just normally, like I said, initial tensioning, I'll grab a pair of pliers like that and just give it a quick little bend. Again, there are talks on whether you do a nice gradual curve or do you put a little kink in your spring. We're not going to get into that. That's like opening a can of worms. That's like opening Pantera's box.
Pantera's box. Let's do that in a future video, though, because I think that's good information. Brian, let me ask you a question. We talked about the length of spring. How about just a couple of questions here. Lubrication, do you lubricate springs at all? What do you use?
You do, and main reason why you lubricate them or put oil on it is not necessarily to make them feel better. It's to prevent a lot of the corrosion and rust. Okay, and you'll see a lot of older springs, especially if when you start getting them broken off flush with the post, a lot of the corrosion. Spit, oil, whatever you've been drinking when you've been playing at the bar. Don't mean to single you out, Rich. I didn't mean to look at you when I said that. I'll look over here when I say that again. But oiling your springs, I'll usually just use a Q-tip and some medium weight Ultimax lubricant just to kind of coat them. I'll even do so with the gold-plated and the nickel-plated springs, even though they have that extra coating on it.
Cool.
So yeah, it's always a good idea.
And then in terms of the feel, this is just a general question that I've seen. Difference between stainless steel, because we sell well, not that we're selling anything, but MusicMedic does offer stainless steel spring wire that technicians use versus the blued steel. So is there a noticeable difference between the stainless steel and the blued steel springs?
What you'll find a lot of times is on professional model instruments, you'll have the blued needle springs. Okay. On a lot of the student instruments, what you'll have is the stainless steel springs. And I think the main reason for that is ease of installation. With the needle springs, you have to measure it to length before you actually install it. A lot of times with those stainless steel springs, you can go ahead and peen one in, press it in, measure it up with your key, and then just snip off whatever excess is there. And I think that's the main reason for that. Feel-wise, it's tough to say which one feels better. I know having that needle point on the needle spring engaged in that cradle, having the least amount of friction possible, does feel better than having a big thick spring in this tiny little cradle.
Yeah.
So there's my 2 cents. I know it's a kind of a debated topic in the band instrument repair world. Go ahead and write it in your comments which one you like better, in addition to adding Spring Break 2022. Like, share, subscribe.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
Sometimes we have too much fun doing this, Rich.
We're having a little too much. But I'm glad we got the technical stuff worked out. Shout out to David.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, David, for...
Hopefully he wrote in Spring Break 2022.
He did. Thank you.
Oh, good.
David's going to be entered into the drawing for next week. Make sure you put that in the comments below so that you can be winning a prize. And make sure, David, make sure you write me, Rich, RICH, at MusicMedic.com. To get yours. Next week, we are going to be starting our key working series. We're going to be doing our pivot screw series. So it's a 5-part series on pivot screws, and we're going to be talking about the pivot screws and the true taper, which is, and we'll talk all about that next week. Hopefully, we'll see some of you at the NAPR conference, and until next week, happy repairing.
Like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe.